The sky tore open without warning. One moment the earth was calm, and the next, silent ships filled the sky like silver shadows. They moved without sound, without heat, like ghosts made of metal. No one knew who they were or what they wanted until cities began to vanish beneath glowing blue domes. James was just a soldier, not a hero, not a leader. Just one man tired of fighting other men. He had seen gunfire, tanks, and screams in the dirt. But this was different. The enemy didn't scream, didn't bleed, and didn't fall. They came like a storm wrapped in silence. James and his unit were sent into the forest near the capital. Their orders were to investigate. A strange signal, something alien, something powerful. But the deeper they moved through the trees, the less real the world became. The air shimmered. The ground hummed under their boots, and their radios died one by one. Then the forest swallowed his team. No screams, no shots, just gone. James turned in every direction, heart racing, but he was alone. And then she stepped out from the shimmer. She wasn't human. That was clear. Her skin shimmered like silver under moonlight, smooth and cold. Her eyes glowed faintly, like twin stars trapped in glass, and her armor ornate and curved looked more like it was grown than built. James froze, gun shaking in his hands, but she didn't attack. She only watched him with a strange sadness, like she knew something he didn't, before he could speak. The forest twisted again, and everything went dark. He woke in a chamber made of crystal and light. The walls hummed, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. There were no chains, no guards, only silence and her. She stood across from him, tall and proud, her crown of silver branches resting on her brow. "You are human," she said, her voice calm but distant. James stood slowly, confused and alert. "Yeah, and you're, what exactly?" She tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle. "I am Princess Ilaria of the Harneth Dominion. We came for peace, but peace was not returned." James stepped back. "You attacked first. Cities were taken. People died." Her expression darkened. "We offered alliance. Your leaders answered with weapons. We shielded your cities from themselves." James didn't know what to believe. Everything he'd heard said the aliens were here to conquer, to destroy. But she didn't look like a conqueror. She looked like someone who had lost something. "I saw you in the forest," she said, stepping closer. "You didn't run. You didn't fire. You looked at me like I was that real." James stayed silent. There was something strange in the air. Not fear, not yet. But wait. Like the room itself was listening. "You are not like the others," she said softly. "But you are still a weapon. I need to see what kind." Before he could answer, the floor opened beneath them. Not falling, not pain, but a shift. Like gravity itself bent sideways. He found himself standing in a wide arena, smooth stone floor, high walls glowing with alien symbols. She stood across from him, drawing a blade that sang as it moved through the air. "You fight now," she said, "not for death, but for truth." James looked at his hands. No gun, no armor, only his own body. He narrowed his eyes, then took a stance. "All right, Princess ... Let's find the truth then." The battle began, not with hate but rhythm. She was fast, precise, her blade dancing like silver lightning. But James had fought too long, seen too much. He dodged, blocked, moved with instinct, not training, but survival. The arena watched without sound. Each movement was a test, each strike a question. "Who are you really?" As sweat dripped from his brow, and her eyes grew wide with surprise. Something changed. She stopped, lowering her weapon slowly. "You fight not with rage, but with memory," she whispered. He breathed hard, hands still raised. "I don't want war. I want answers." She stepped forward, touched his shoulder lightly, gently. "And I want to believe that humans can be more than fire." Behind her, the walls shifted, showing images, cities, stars, destruction, and hope. "I will help you escape," she said, "but only if you help me stop the real enemy. They are coming." Even we cannot stop them alone. James looked into her alien eyes, searching for lies, but saw only fear and something else. Something that could grow into trust. He nodded. Then let's stop them together. Asterisk, the chamber walls faded as soon as James gave his answer. Suddenly they were standing in a long corridor of light, its floor smooth and cold under his boots. Alien writing glowed along the edges, and the ceiling above shifted like water. Ilaria walked beside him, silent, her silver armor catching every glow around them. He watched her carefully. Even though she had just fought him, she didn't look angry. Instead, she looked curious, like she was studying a question she couldn't yet answer. You are not trained in our ways, she said softly, yet you kept up with me. James shrugged. I've had to survive more times than I can count. Maybe that's its own kind of training. She looked at him, her eyes distant. Survival, she repeated. Yes, that is what remains when peace is gone. They passed into a wider chamber where other aliens stood tall, armored, their faces hidden behind smooth helmets. They turned as Ilaria entered, and all bowed. James blinked. It felt strange, seeing soldiers, clearly powerful ones, bowing to a girl who looked barely older than him. But there was no question, she carried herself like someone born to lead. He is not our enemy, she told them, voice firm. One of the armored figures stepped forward, taller than the rest. His voice was deep and filtered. He is human. The council will not accept this. He is different, Ilaria replied. He doesn't kill without reason. He listens. James stayed quiet. He didn't understand their politics, but he knew when a room was full of tension. Ilaria placed her hand on his chest plate. I saw how he fights. Not with pride, not for glory, but to protect. The tall alien stared at James for a moment longer, then let him prove it again. The other humans are coming. Their ships have found us. Ilaria turned sharply. How many? 3 destroyers. Less than an hour away. James stepped back, surprised. My people are attacking? The tall alien nodded slowly. They found our location and chose force over words. Again. Ilaria looked toward the ceiling as if she could already see the sky breaking apart. We can't win like this, she whispered. Not against your weapons and theirs. Not alone. She turned to James, eyes sharper now. Will you help stop this? Or will you stay quiet while both sides burn? James met her gaze. I'll try, he said. But I don't think my voice is enough to stop war. Ilaria's lips tightened, not in anger, but in decision. Then we'll give them no choice but to listen. She walked to a wall and pressed her palm against a panel. A platform rose from the floor with 2 suits, one for her, and a smaller one shaped for a human. Smooth, sleek armor like liquid metal. Wear it, she said. It will protect you and connect you to me. James hesitated. Alien tech. He didn't trust it, but he also knew he didn't have time to argue. So he stepped forward and slid into the suit. It tightened around him, cold for only a second, then warm, alive almost. He felt it adjust to his movements, light and strong. Ilaria tapped her crown, and her armor lit up. Then she reached out and grabbed his hand. The world vanished in a burst of blue light. They appeared high above the surface, on a floating platform just beneath the clouds. And above them, breaking through the sky, 3 massive Earth warships. Their shapes were brutal, gray and heavy. Nothing like the smooth beauty of Ilaria's world. James heard static in his ears. His suit was picking up human radio signals. Targets confirmed. Alien platform detected. Orders, fire on sight. No, James shouted into the mic. This is Sergeant James Carter. Hold your fire. There are civilians here, non-hostiles. Silence. Then Sergeant Carter, you're listed Mia. How did you get there? Captured, yes, but they didn't kill me. They spoke. They offered peace. More silence. Ilaria looked up at him. He could feel the pressure growing behind her calm face. The radio came back. Too risky. We can't trust them. Orders are to destroy all platforms. Ilaria stepped forward, raising both hands. Waves of light spread from her armor signals. Maybe shields. The Earthships locked on. James could feel it in his bones, the moment before. Fire. So he stepped in front of her, fully exposed. This is not the enemy, he shouted. If you kill her, you'll only make it worse. She wants to stop the war. The targeting lasers stayed locked, but then, slowly, they faded. A new voice spoke on the radio. Stand by. General Halden wants a live talk, right now. Ilaria looked at James, her voice low and serious. They're listening because of you. He gave a tired smile. Let's hope they keep listening. The sky was quiet again, but it was not peace. Ilaria and James stood together on the floating platform, staring up at the human warships. Their weapons had powered down, but the danger still hung in the air like thick smoke. James kept his voice steady, speaking into his suit's mic. This is Sergeant Carter. I'm alive. I've made contact. This princess, Ilaria, she's not our enemy. She wants to talk. A moment passed. Then a voice came back, calm and low. This is General Halden. You better explain, soldier. Because right now, you're standing in enemy territory with an alien leader beside you. James looked at Ilaria, then stepped forward. I saw her fight, he said. I saw her people. They had a chance to kill me. They didn't. They're defending themselves because we attacked first. Ilaria nodded slowly, her voice soft but sharp. We came to Earth with open hands. Your leaders saw weapons where there were none. So we shielded ourselves. General Halden answered. You expect us to believe that after what happened in Berlin and Tokyo? Ilaria raised her hand. A screen appeared beside them, blue light forming into moving images. Footage showed alien ships above cities, not firing, but projecting large energy domes. Then human missiles hit those domes and bounced off. No counterattack. No destruction, just defense. This was our answer, she said. You fired, we blocked, we never struck first. The general was quiet for a long time. Then another voice came through. You said this is a princess? Yes, James replied. And she's risking everything just to talk to us. Ilaria's eyes locked onto the sky. We don't want your planet. We want your help. Something worse is coming. Something that doesn't talk. Something we can't face alone. James felt the weight of her words. She had told him before, but now it sounded bigger. What is it? The general asked. Ilaria looked down. Machines. Not built by us. Not by you. They travel between stars, eating everything. Metal, stone, life. We call them the Devourers. James took a breath. He knew they were coming. That's why you came here. Yes, she said. We needed warriors, minds, hearts, you, humanity. The silence returned on the line. James could imagine the officers arguing behind it, trying to decide if this was real or a trick, but he had seen her fight. He had felt her armor's pulse, and he had seen the sadness in her eyes. If we don't stand together, Ilaria said, both our worlds will fall. Finally, General Halden replied, we're not ready for peace. Not yet, but we're willing to pause. We'll hold fire. James exhaled. It was a start. Ilaria gave a small nod. Then I will return with you, to your leaders. They must see I speak the truth. James stared at her. You'd walk into a human base? If it helps stop this war, she said, I will walk through your fire. Moments later, a transport ship lowered from one of the destroyers. It hovered over the platform, its hatch opening slowly. James and Ilaria stepped forward together. As they boarded, armed guards aimed rifles, but didn't shoot. Inside, the air was colder, the light harsher. Ilaria said nothing. She only watched. At the command deck, General Halden stood tall, gray-haired, with tired eyes and a deep scar down one cheek. He studied Ilaria for a long time. You really are a princess? I am the third blood of House Viren, keeper of the ether crown, and last heir of Harneth. He gave a quiet grunt. All right, then we talk. They walked to a sealed room where a round table waited. James stood near the door. Watching both sides, Ilaria sat straight, calm, royal. I didn't come to beg, she said. I came to warn you, and I came to ask for a bond. Halden narrowed his eyes. A bond? Our ways are not yours. But this is what we do in times of crisis, when two sides must trust. We bind warriors, one from each side. They fight together, lead together. She turned slightly. I want that bond to be with him. James blinked. What? Ilaria stood and walked toward him. You faced me without fear. You saw me as more than alien. That's what we need to survive. James glanced at Halden. I didn't sign up for this. You don't have to, Ilaria said. You only need to choose. Halden folded his arms. If this works, it might save billions. If it fails, it could start another war. James looked at the floor, then at Ilaria's hand, open and waiting. I'm just a soldier, he said quietly. She smiled, just a little. That's exactly why I choose you. James took her hand. Their palms touched. A flash of light passed between them, and something ancient began. The bond was more than light. As James touched Ilaria's hand, a strange warmth spread through his body, not like heat, but like memory. He saw flashes of places he'd never been, stars he'd never touched, and voices speaking in a language his heart somehow understood. Ilaria's hand tightened in his. Their eyes met. And James knew she felt it too. The room around them was silent. Even General Halden didn't speak. When the light faded, Ilaria stepped back, her breathing calm but her face different, softer. You are part of me now, she said. Your pain, your honor, your promise, I feel it. James rubbed his chest lightly. I felt something. Like pieces of your past, being stitched into mine. Halden walked forward, his face unreadable. What exactly does this bond mean? Ilaria turned to him, her voice clear. It means I trust him more than any in my court. His choices now carry my voice. His words are mine. His fight is mine. James felt the weight of her words. He hadn't asked for this, but now it was his. Soldier. A symbol. A bridge between two worlds. They were moved to a smaller chamber aboard the ship, a place prepared for observation. Though it felt like a soft prison, Ilaria didn't complain. She stood by the window, watching Earth below. It's beautiful, she whispered. James walked up beside her. You should see the oceans from ground level, or a mountain sunset. She smiled gently. I want to, someday. A door opened behind them. A young officer entered, nervous but respectful. The general wants you both in the war room, urgently. James and Ilaria followed, their steps echoing in the steel halls. Inside the command center, large screens lit up with alerts. A map of Earth glowed with red signals. Something was entering the solar system. Multiple signatures. Fast. Is it them? James asked. Halden nodded. We don't know what it is yet, but they're not ours, and they're not yours either. Ilaria stepped forward. They've come. The Devourers. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then Halden pointed to a region in space where the signals converged. They'll reach Earth's orbit in less than 3 days. Maybe sooner. James stared at the screen. Can we fight them? Not alone. Ilaria answered. Halden looked at both of them. Then we better not be alone anymore. Over the next hours, things moved quickly. Ilaria's ship sent out a signal calling her remaining fleet from their hiding places. Human governments were contacted in secret. James stood beside her. Through it all, he didn't understand every alien word or every code, but he saw how people looked at her and him. Together, they were something new. Not just soldier and alien, but hope. By the second day, joint human-alien teams were training together. Some soldiers were nervous, some angry, but most were silent. Watching. James was assigned as the first bonded human, a living message that trust was possible. He trained with Ilaria by day, spoke to leaders at night, and barely slept one evening. As they stood alone in a quiet observatory above the clouds, Ilaria turned to him. "You carry more weight than you should." James leaned on the railing. "I didn't ask for this. But if it keeps more people alive, I'll carry it." She stepped closer. "You don't have to carry it alone." He looked at her face, calm, bright, yet deeply tired, like someone who had lived for far too long without trust. "I know," he said quietly. "That's what the bond means, right?" She nodded. "And more." Before he could ask what she meant, alarms rang out. Red lights flashed. A voice shouted through the speakers, "Contact! Unidentified ships approaching orbit." James and Ilaria rushed to the deck. On the screens, black forms entered view, long, spiked shapes without lights or signals. Thousands of them like metal insects crawling from the dark. "They're here," Ilaria said, her voice low. James stared at the screen and slowly reached for his weapon. The war he'd never wanted was coming. But this time, he wasn't fighting alone. The black ships came without warning. No message, no sound, no signal, just cold, perfect silence. They moved like sharks through water, long and sharp, each one glowing faintly at the core. James stood in the command center, fists clenched, staring at the screens as wave after wave entered Earth's orbit. Ilaria stood beside him, her face calm, but her eyes heavy with history. "These are only scouts," she said. "The real swarm hasn't arrived yet." James turned to her quickly. "Scouts? That's what they send just to look?" She nodded once. "They test a world's defense. If it's weak, they send the hive. If it's strong, they still come, but faster." General Halden gave the order. "Prepare everything." Satellites shifted into place. Defense systems armed, and alien ships aligned with human ones in strange, beautiful formations. For the first time in history, Earth soldiers and alien warriors stood as one. And it still might not be enough. James stood with his team, a mix of human marines and Harneth guardians in silver armor. Their languages were different, their weapons strange, but they moved like they'd trained for years together. Ilaria entered, wearing her full ceremonial armor, polished and glowing. Her crown shone with soft blue light, her steps silent, confident, powerful. Everyone went quiet. She looked at James and gave a single nod. "Ready?" she asked. "No," he said, "but I'll go anyway." She smiled, just slightly. "That's why I chose you." Their unit was sent to the outer edge of Earth's orbit, where the first enemy drones were landing. When they arrived, they saw destruction. Human satellites ripped in half. Harneth beacons shattered. One of the black ships floated ahead. Motionless, it looked dead, until it opened. The thing that came out was not a live. It was metal-shaped like a spider, with blades for legs and a mouth full of spinning saws. It screamed with no voice, charging toward them without fear. James fired. The others followed. The thing fell in pieces, but more followed, crawling out of the dark ship like insects spilling from a wound. They fought hard. Side by side, Ilaria's blade danced through the air, cutting machines in half with every swing. James covered her back, his rifle hot from firing non-stop. At one point, he fell. A drone leapt toward him, blades ready, but Ilaria threw herself between them, taking the hit on her armor. She didn't fall. She roared and struck the drone down with a glowing blade. James looked up at her, breathing hard. "You all right?" She offered her hand. "No, but I'm still standing." Behind them, more ships exploded as combined human-alien squadrons pushed forward. The unity was working, but it wasn't enough. From the blackness beyond the moon, something massive moved. At first it looked like a shadow, but then it grew, and kept growing, until it blocked the stars. A ship larger than any city, covered in weapons, alive with red lights pulsing like a heart. The hive. James stared in silence. So did everyone else. Even Ilaria. She whispered one word. "Mother." James turned. What? That is their central mind. If we destroy it, we stop. The swarm, but ... She hesitated. No one has ever reached it. The command center sent out a message. All units fall back. Defend Earth. James grabbed Ilaria's arm. Wait, you said if we destroy the hive it ends, right? She nodded. Slowly. Then we don't fall back, he said. We go in. She stared at him. That would be suicide. He looked into her glowing eyes. Maybe, but so is waiting here. We were chosen for something, weren't we? Let's prove why. She hesitated, then touched her crown. A signal burst. From it calling 3 stealth-class Harneth ships, we go together, she said. One chance, one shot. They boarded the nearest ship. James sat in the pilot chair with a Harneth interface wrapped around his arms. Ilaria stood behind him, watching the stars dot as they flew toward the hive. Dozens of drones spotted them. Missiles. Locked on, lasers fired. James flew harder than he ever had, twisting. Diving, dodging death by inches. The ships screamed as they broke through the hive's outer shield. And then, they were inside. A massive dark tunnel of moving metal and strange light. Ahead, something pulsed a red core at the center of it all. James looked back once. Ilaria nodded. For Earth, for both of us. He drove forward, toward the heart of the machine, toward the end, whatever it would be. The ship rattled as it pushed deeper into the hive. Metal walls moved like muscle around them, twitching and shifting with each second. James gripped the controls. Tighter. Every part of his body told him to stop, but he didn't. Ilaria stood behind him, sword ready, her breathing slow, her eyes glowing brighter than ever before. We're close, she said. Ahead. The tunnel opened into a huge chamber. The core, a swirling sphere of red and black light, pulsed in the center like a living heart. It was surrounded by long mechanical arms building, spinning, feeding from the energy around it. This was the mind of the Devourers, the brain behind the swarm, the source of their power. As soon as they entered, alarms screamed in the strange alien sound. The walls lit up. Drones poured in from above. Bladed machines. Crawling things. Flying ones. James jumped from the seat. He grabbed his weapon and ran beside Ilaria. They fought through the swarm, back to back. Her blade flashed like silver fire. His gun lit the room. With each shot, sparks rained down. Metal limbs flew past, but they kept moving toward the core. A drone crashed into James, knocking him down. Its claws came for his chest, and then it froze. Ilaria had sliced it clean through. She reached down, pulled him up with strength that didn't match her frame. You still with me? She asked. He nodded. Always. They reached the edge of the core's platform. The hum of energy was deafening now. Their armor buzzed as the air around them grew hotter. James looked at her. We destroy it from here? Ilaria stepped forward. No, you must stay. I go alone. What? I was born with the crown. That connection lets me speak to machines, but only once. I can reach the core. I can shut it down. He shook his head. Then we do it together. She smiled. Soft, beautiful, brave. That's not how the bond works. One must act. The other must carry the memory. James felt his throat tighten. There has to be another way. There isn't. Before he could stop her, she stepped onto the final bridge. The light from the core wrapped around her body. She began to glow silver and blue, her armor pulsing like a heartbeat. The drones froze. Everything stopped. The machines stared at her, like they recognized something in her voice. Her presence. James watched as she raised her hand to the core. She whispered something, words too soft to hear. The light grew stronger. Then silence. A wave of white light exploded from the core. It passed through everything, through James, through the ship, through space itself. The drones collapsed, one by one. They fell from the sky, dead, The giant hive stopped moving. The red light faded to gray. James ran forward, but Ilaria was gone. Only her crown remained, lying at the edge of the platform, still glowing. He dropped to his knees and picked it up with shaking hands. It was warm. And it pulsed once like a heartbeat. He didn't cry, he couldn't. But something deep inside him cracked. He left the hive in silence. The earth welcomed him back with cheers and tears. Humanity had survived. The swarm was gone. But so was she. James stood before world leaders, wearing her crown across his chest like a symbol. He told them her story, how she didn't fight to win, but to save, how a single alien girl chose peace over power. And how she believed in a human before anyone else did. Years passed. James never wore a uniform again. He didn't fight anymore, but he remembered. In every school, children learned the story of Ilaria of Harnef. In every city, her statue stood tall beside Earth's heroes. And every night, James walked to a quiet hill where a small light flickered. He placed her crown there each time and whispered the same words over and over, "I carry it now." The stars above were quiet again, but they remembered her. So did he. Forever.